Let's fly. Fly me to the moon and let me sing among the stars. Let me see what spring is like.
Would you turn that noise off? It's not noise, it's music. It's the 50s, Mom. Give us a time. I don't care what year it is. And what's that you're wearing? Clothes? When I was a kid, I never wore clothes like that. This scandalous music is poisoning the minds of our young. All right, Mom. Oh, that's George, Bob, and Katie. And where do you think you're going? To drive, and we're gonna catch a movie. See you later.
Please be true.
After World War II, America's consumer-led economy gave a booming start to the iconic era of the 1950s. In a time defined by baby boomers and the Red Scare, a rich culture emerged. During this influential epoch, one of the most notable aspects was the expansion of music.
The influence of jazz and blues in the 1920s led to a new, scandalous form of music, rock and roll. This musical revolution was led by none other than the king of rock and roll himself, Elvis Presley. Ushering in a whole new era of American music and pop culture, Elvis's music blurred and challenged the social and racial barriers of the time. Producing chart-topping songs such as All Shook Up, Elvis quickly stole the hearts and minds of the younger generation. But with his popularity came discontent, especially because of his liberal lyrics and provocative dancing. When appearing on shows such as The Ed Sullivan Show, he was only shown from the waist up, gaining the nickname Elvis the Pelvis.
Other rock and similar artists began to follow Elvis's footsteps, becoming trendsetters in their own ways. Through these trends, teenagers and other members of the younger American generation began to develop an identity for themselves. Music gave them a way to express themselves and voice their opinions so that it would be heard. Many older Americans viewed rock and roll as a rebellious influence, as people began to dress differently than their parents had at their age. Younger Americans saw Elvis and other stars, and, with the influence from the media, would begin to dress as they did. Many people preferred conformism, because they saw it as safe. While parents dressed as their parents had, teenagers would dress as their idols, many of which were in the music industry.
People were often influenced by the media, things that they saw on TV and in movies. Shows like American Bandstand swayed many Americans to see the greater impact of music. Music's popularity grew, and in 1958, the first Grammys were awarded. Although the Grammys were not televised until 1971, there were many other things that Americans could watch on their televisions. In addition to The Ed Sullivan Show and American Bandstand, other popular TV shows included I Love Lucy, The Honeymooners, Father Knows Best, The Twilight Zone, and The Frank Sinatra Show. Especially as sports became televised, the television quickly became the 1950s equivalent of the radio, bringing people together in all regions of America.
Although many preferred conformity, some thought it was better to stand out. The beatniks refused to conform, so instead they came up with their own expected ways of thinking, dressing, and acting. They wrote their own poems and songs, and they had their own unique style. The Beats weren't the only ones to reject such conformity, as many popular novels of the time expressed feelings of isolation.
Although the 1950s were unique in their own way, many similarities can be seen in our time.
Excuse me, turn that back on. Why? This music's better. That music is so not better. My music that I was listening to, timeless. Yours, not timeless. Alright, whatever. And by the way, aren't you going to put something else over that shirt? No, it's summer. It's hot outside. You say so. Hi, I'll see ya. Where are you going? The mall. See you home by dinner. Alright, bye.
Although times are different, history has a tendency to mirror itself. While some would define our culture as open and liberal, others would argue that our standards have been seriously lowered.
Rock and roll continues to grow and has expanded into several different genres, including extremes like metal and screamo to alternative and pop rock. Because of many of today's parents grew up in the 1950s and later years, rock is no longer seen as the devil's music. Instead, types of music such as hardcore rap and other offensive and loud music are seen as rebellious and scandalous today. As with the 1950s, there is always an older generation that will disapprove of the culture of the younger generation.
The influences of music on fashion are more clearly seen today than they were back in 1950. For example, the fashion that is associated with rockers would typically be darker colors with lots of band t-shirts, jeans, and sometimes chains. On the other side, the fashion associated with rappers would typically be baggy jeans with oversized t-shirts. Trends can also be seen with our modern-day beatniks, also known as hipsters. They typically like to stand out, wearing bright colors, and their unique music often includes the indie rock genre.
As American Bandstand lost popularity, MTV came into the picture. Music television originated as just that, a station where you could watch videos for new and interesting music. However, today there are several MTVs. While some stay true to music, others are now all about reality TV. Shows that are seen on these stations would have been completely unacceptable in the 1950s and are frowned upon today by older generations.
We are still influenced by media, but this influence is more prominent and harsh today. While the 1950s may have offered the image of the perfect housewife, the 21st century image is the perfect woman, flawless and unrealistically skinny. It has become part of today's culture to always look perfect, which can lower self-esteem and can lead to serious health hazards.
If it hadn't been for the culture of the 1950s, we wouldn't have the culture that we do today. If artists like Elvis hadn't stepped up, where would our music be? What if the television hadn't been invented? A lot of seemingly insignificant events have directly impacted us today more than we know. While the cultures of both then and now may have their faults, we continue to learn and grow.